We're live.
Good morning, everybody. February 11th, 2021. I'm Lawrence Kazan Cassini in Florida, and Dan Burke, Big Dan, is at the moment in Boston. So as you see, we can do this from anywhere. These Zoom calls are absolutely fantastic as far as our technology is concerned. We can do anything from anywhere, which is part of the strength of our business. So as usual, the slaughterhouse of failure is not in my destiny. I will persist until I succeed. This is Ogmandino. And today, more than ever, actually, we've got a good theme that has a lot of bearing on exactly this type of this attitude that we want to talk about. This week Dan's chosen a theme which is by Thomas Fuller. So all things are difficult before they're easy. So we're going to discuss that a little bit, and there are a lot of different things that are involved with that. So Dan?
Yeah. I forget where I saw this quote, but I was doing my usual reading this week and came across this quote, and I immediately thought about the Friday call, mostly because, as a medical device rep, this really hit me close to home because I thought this was going to be a very, very easy thing to do when I first got involved. I think I've said this multiple times that, I thought I was going to go out and place 100 scanners my first week. In retrospect, it was much more difficult than that. And what I've since learned is that you don't really want to go out and place 100 scanners in your first week, because you're not going to be able to train the practitioners properly to make this help them make this successful in their practice. And so, you look at a lot of skills that you've learned in your life. A lot of them are difficult if you haven't done them before, and through repetition and being consistent, which are themes that we talk about every day, they become much easier. Right. And, think about when you're growing up as a child, everything we learn seems insurmountable to those who are mentoring us or parenting us. Crawling, for example, or walking. How difficult is that for a newborn child or a 6-month, 9-month-old child to learn how to do those things? But they're difficult. But once they learn how to do them and they get their balance and learn how to use their arms to help keep their balance, it becomes easier. And so, that's the same thing with a lot of things in life. As we're learning new things, they're difficult at first, but what we need to remember is that the more we practice them, the more consistent we are, the easier it's going to become.
Actually, before I get into that particular little part of it, I'd like to just say that what Dan just said at the beginning is so important, because if we actually allow our vulnerabilities to show, and we humanize who we are, it makes it so much easier for everybody else, because we see only what we've discussed before. We see the tip of the iceberg. We see the success of something, but we don't understand what's all the pain and trials and tribulations that go towards getting that success. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Dan, because he said he thought he would, place 100 scanners in the first month. So, and it doesn't happen that way. And this is precisely why we need to talk about mindset, and we need to talk about how and why we can adjust and tweak and continually try and adapt to that. So, although things should get easier, the more we practice and the more we work towards it. And the whole point of this is, it depends on how we look at things, depends on the attitude we have. And if the attitude we have is just a repetition of practice and practice and practice without being in the now. So there are two references I want to make in this. One is Eckhart Tolle, who talks about the power of now. And that is, I just want to say, like, to be in the zone, when something happens, be there, understand it, expand on what you're learning right there, because it's not just a repetition, repetition, repetition. It's repetition with conscience. It's repetition with understanding. What did I do right? What can I do better? And the other one is the power of yet. And that is Carol Dweck. The power of yet, because if we think that, something is a problem and it's an insurmountable problem and we get into it and say, oh my gosh, this is so damn hard. Oh, geez. Then we will fail. But if we say, I'm not there yet, that word yet is key to most things that we do, because I want to be the most successful, whatever. I want to have the best, yet, but I will do it. I will. I don't have it yet. But you've got to brainwash yourself to know that you can and will succeed. If we don't have that absolute conviction, then we're just repeating stuff and we're doing the same old, and Einstein's theory about, insanity, just repeating the same old thing without actually growing in it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can tell a lot about someone's mindset just from those three letters, that one 3-letter word, yet. And I listen for that a lot when I'm having conversations with people who are having difficulty in this business or whatever difficulties they may be having in life. If they finish a sentence with, I haven't been able to do this yet, it says a lot about their mindset. It's that they're not willing to give up. They're not willing to quit trying. They're always thinking that they're going to reach that goal or whatever it may be. And so just going back to my initial comments, I see with medical device reps that I've brought into the business that have joined me, they have the same mentality that I had. They thought, this was going to be a no-brainer because it's got 3 things that we look for as medical device reps. We're helping patients, we're helping physicians, and we're helping physicians make money. It's kind of like the trifecta. And so every medical device rep sees that and they're like, oh, this is going to be so easy because there's something in it for the patient, there's something in it for the physician, and there's something in it for me. And they all think it's going to be easy. And I tell them up front, it's not. Network marketing has work in the actual word. It's work. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. It's difficult. But the more you get on these calls, the more you go to the training healthcare forums, the more you practice your presentation, the more you do everything that's important in this business, reading, listening, all of those different things, the easier it's going to become. With that being said, all things are difficult before they are easy. What it does not say is that all things will become easy, right? The key word here is before. All things are difficult before they are easy, but it doesn't say that everything that's difficult is going to be easy. Eventually things will become easier. Many things end up easy with experience, but some things never become easy. And you can think about some of those things in your personal life and think about some of those things that were difficult for you in your past and how they became easier. What did you do so that they became easier? And more than likely it was consistency and repetition and all of those things that we say that you need to do to be successful in this business. It holds true with every difficult thing that you've ever done, that you've made easier by being repetitive, by being more consistent. So it's very important, and disciplining ourselves to do what we should do. That's important, is the discipline in this business. And so discipline gets easier with practice, right? And that's a big part of this business as well, is practicing this business. It's not something that we just pick up and learn overnight. It takes practice. Discipline is always hard work. So to become disciplined, you're going to have to do those things that are difficult, right? To make that discipline easier.
Yeah. So in whatever we're doing, in the practice, I insist it's a conscious practice. It's a practice of analysis. you know, when we hear that, I don't know, Magic Johnson took, or whoever it was, did 10,000 times to shoot the basket, and you know, before he really started to show some results. It's not just throwing the basket; it's to think about the millimetric movement that he did or they do to get that shot right. In our case, it's the same thing with how we talk to people, how we talk to ourselves, how we analyze ourselves, and how we can adjust ourselves millimetrically each time to improve, to be better. Because the repetition without a deep understanding and a self-analysis of where we are and what we're doing, you know, it's not going to be anything. So we talked about a couple of weeks ago about the growth mindset and about the the mindset that's kind of static. And here's where I think is also the difference, where we talk about something before is going to be difficult, and it's going to be very, very difficult all the time if somebody doesn't have a growth mindset. So all of these things that we talk about in mindset are all intertwined. We're talking about, you know, what Thomas Fuller was talking about, that things are difficult before they get easy. But it all is intertwined with how we have, what kind of mindset we have, whether it's a growth mindset with unlimited possibilities, that we've got to build the bridge to yet. So if we have a growth mindset, we can build a bridge to yet. I like that. And yet if we don't have that fertile possibility of growth mindset, we will not build a bridge to yet, because we'll stagnate in where we are. And in fact, we might even go backwards. So this is the difference between success and failure, is how we see what we see. And I've always said that the size of the challenge is directly proportional to the emotion with which we see it. You know, we talk about these things, but we don't really analyze it. So, you know, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. You're right either way. And this is where we've got to apply the thinking behind it.
I mean, that's a lot of this goes back to, you know, being a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you, like you said, Lawrence, if you believe you can do something, you can do it. If you don't believe you can do something, you're probably not going to be able to achieve it. And, you know, in my life, I've tended to gravitate towards things that are more difficult to achieve because I like the challenge. And, you know, this is just one more of those challenges that makes me a better person, that makes me a better brother, better father, better better in my relationships. You know, I firmly believe that, you know, that coming across difficult things and striving to achieve in the face of some adversity makes you a better person, and in most facets of your life. And so, you know, this is just one more difficulty. It's going to be more difficult for others than, you know, for some people than for others. It's going to be easier for some people than others. You know, one of the things that always interests me, and I like to ask folks, is, you know, what made it easier? What made it difficult for you? Because those things are going to be different for every single person, right? We all have different personalities. Things are going to pop up that you know, that are difficult for one person that may not be difficult for myself. And so, you know, Lawrence and I have had that conversation, like, you know, how has this business been difficult for you? How has this business been easy for you? And, you know, those are the questions that you should be asking some of the folks on your team, because you can learn a lot from that and learn a lot from listening. You know, Lawrence talked about some of those other personality traits and mindset and things like that, questioning, but, you know, listening is just as important as the rest of those things, if not more important.
Actually, there's something also just on what you said, Dan. Again, and this I make reference to Carol Dweck. She at some time talked about taking kids from depressed areas and who were underachievers, and putting them in schools where they had a much more difficult competitive surrounding, and those kids all improved like crazy because if they're in a negative surrounding also, it brings them down. Whereas if you're in a difficult situation, not difficult, but more competitive situation, then there can be an incentive to better oneself. But again, it's taking from what you don't have to what you can have. This is the whole thing about the yet. You have nothing now, you're not going to have anything, you think, and then you see that, wait a minute, I can. Oh, I really can. Well, if he's done it or she's done it, why can't I? Wait a minute. Well, I'm just not there yet. So it's about a yardstick for ourselves about where we can move from to.
And how do you build that bridge to yet? What skills do you need to attain? What mindset, what limiting factors in your mind do you need to change to create that growth mindset? Because a growth mindset can be cultivated. If you have a fixed mindset, you can cultivate that to have a growth mindset. And how do you do that? You do that by surrounding yourself with positive people, surrounding yourself with people who don't say no or can't say no to a difficult task, who are always going to persevere no matter how difficult that task is. Surrounding yourself with good books that have that mentality, that growth mindset, and podcasts and things like that we talked about last week. And Scott Bennett last Monday talked about taking massive action, being able to take massive action or learning how to take massive action in this business is going to propel your business and take this from being maybe a difficult task to becoming easier. And in doing that, you're building, I love that you said that, Lawrence, building that bridge to yet. A lot of people don't finish their sentences that way when they come up upon adversity. They just said, I can't do that. I have a sister-in-law that anything you ask her to do, she says, I can't do that. I can't do that. And, a couple of years ago, I had an idea for a family trip to take everybody up to Maine, and we were going to all climb Mount Katahdin, which is the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. And it's, I decided that I wanted to do the most difficult route. It was just one more thing. I always seem to choose the most difficult path. And, my sister-in-law, who always says I can't do that, she did it. I mean, she was a little bit slower. She didn't train like the rest of us. She wasn't consistent in what she was doing leading up to that. I kind of gave everybody a workout plan, and she didn't really follow it. She was like, oh, we're just going to be walking up a mountain. It's not going to be that difficult. I walk every 5 miles every day. And, she wasn't consistent. But she persevered, and she did it. I honestly didn't think she was going to be able to do it because of her negative mindset, her fixed mindset. She had convinced herself that she couldn't do it. But she did it. And we were all being positive and pushing her forward, and, super proud of her. And that's that was actually a 12-hour hike for us. And so the first 4 or 5 hours are very difficult. But once you get to the top, you basically are hiking along the ridge for a couple of hours and then down the mountain for 3 or 4 hours. And so, that's a perfect example of, something difficult becomes easy. But it's always, difficult in the beginning. The first 4 or 5 hours were very, very difficult. But once you got past that, the rest of the hike became easier. And so it's just, reaching that goal and striving to, achieve the insurmountable in your mind and building that bridge to yet.
So they're actually, when you said, you can't do things, I'm actually the king of procrastination, the king, especially when it comes to technology. I mean, this is something that for me freezes me up, and I feel like I'm mentally constipated when I look at technology. It's just horrible. And I always was saying, not always, but as technology progressed, I got more and more into a funk. because I understood less and less. And the more I understood less, the more I withdrew until I kind of got embarrassed. I kept asking people, how do you do this? Why, how can you do that? What do you do here? How do you do that? It becomes embarrassing. So the embarrassment is also an incentive. It's an incentive to say, get off your duff and do something, learn it, go and get into it. And actually, when you surround yourself with people that are positive, that can do things like Dan and his, the families that went up the hill, and the person who said it couldn't do it, then you look around and you say, well, oh, wait, I can also. What do you mean I can't? Of course I can. And that's where you get into that positive mindset, what do we call it? The growth mindset. The growth mindset. And once you're in the growth mindset, and then if you publicly say something, you better do it, because it's going to be hopelessly embarrassing. If you don't do it, it's going to be terrible. So that's why we encourage, our team to say, well, okay, what are your goals this month? What are you going to do this month? How many calls are you going to make? What are you going to do? What are you going to, and if they publicly say that, which we encourage, and then we've got to stay and keep encouraging, because the traditional way of rewarding success is at the end, where we look at the results of what we've done. But the actual way which we can achieve things better is by encouraging as we go along. Because as we go along, we're encouraging people and we're giving them the strength to do it. Whereas if we don't say anything and we just wait to see the result, then it can be disappointing and people can withdraw into a negative mindset. So the constant encouragement is important as well. That's what teamwork's all about.
Yeah, there's a great comment in the chat here from Mona. So that's what I love about this group, so much support and encouragement. Thank you for that. That's what we need to all be doing on our individual teams, is providing that same thing to our teams that we're providing on these Monday, Wednesday, and Friday calls. We should be, helping others to cultivate that growth mindset and building that bridge. It's encouraging those folks that may have more of a fixed mindset, encouraging them to cultivate that growth mindset and that kind of, can-do attitude where they can accomplish anything. And that's what we've created on our team with Lawrence and Michael and Ryan. It's constant encouragement, positivity only. We have got a great, fantastic group of folks, smart folks that are, encourage us as well. It's not always about encouraging the people on our team from a leadership standpoint. It's also being encouraged by what the other folks on your team are doing, what your teammates are doing, and allowing them to encourage you and help you build and cultivate more of a growth mindset. So that's what I love about this whole network marketing, is that you come across all these different people from different walks of life, and everybody has their different thought processes and growth mindsets and what really drives them, and we can learn a lot from each other. That's what's exciting about this business for me.
What you just said, in corporate world, everybody's trying to be as good as possible to be better than the other. In our case, we're trying to be as good as possible in where we are with the help of others and by helping others. So networking, net coordination, and net growth. So, we're trying to be better, but we're getting better by having everybody who's helping as well. Net synergy, I like that. So Martin just wrote that, Martin Hogg. So what I'm trying to say is that this is actually where the difference between the corporate world and where we are in this world. In this world, teamwork is when we're really trying to help everybody, because apart from the vested interest, but we form a team, a real team. Whereas in the corporate world, we're forming a team so that I can be better than the other guy. And that's in my opinion, not the best way to do it. Here, the corporate world's about individuals. This is about a team, a real team.
I absolutely agree with you. You know, we talked about this before we kind of combined mine and Lawrence and Michael Cook and Ryan's team. And, you know, we decided that, you know, the more the merrier. The more people we have on our team calls, the more we're going to learn from each other. You know, so I encourage you guys to not let just since you have one team and somebody else is on another team, to kind of keep yourself separate. I know that's a big no-no in network marketing, is not to cross teams, but we've seen pretty significant positivity come out of that. We have more people in our calls. We have a broader depth of folks with different mindsets that we're able to learn from, and people that have different ideas. You know, we have the Stephen Moore call on Monday evenings that kind of brings all of the different teams together, which is excellent. And, you know, I don't see any reason why we can't be doing that, you know, on a smaller level as well. And I think it's very important to helping to feed that positive growth mindset. When you have more positivity, you know, positivity breeds positivity, negativity breeds negativity. And so we always try to keep our meetings positive and have folks on there that are adding to that positivity. And, you know, for us, it's worked out and it's been fantastic.
Actually, what you just said about these calls is so important. I was on a call on Wednesday, and I think it was Mansi said something that we've all heard many times, but there's always a right moment for somebody to recapture something and to be inspired. So be the person you want to become. So that was on a call on Wednesday. And as she was writing it, and I was saying with Kent, I wrote it down, even though I've talked about it, but it captured my imagination in that moment. So these calls are very important to plug in, because there's always something to learn. So Dan, we're at just about there. If anybody has any questions or anybody want to add anything, please feel free. I think, unless you've got something else, Dan, you want to conclude with?
No, I think we've done a good job kind of talking about the topic, you know, but just, you know, everybody remember that all things are difficult before they are easy. You know, just figure out, you know, the process that's going to make those difficult things easier for you.
All right.
Questions?
Any comments? Add anything? Nobody? Jim Trainer, did you fall off the chart or something? Did you fall off your desk?
No, I've been busy typing. I mean, my gosh, you guys were on fire today, and I'm trying to figure out how I can tie this into Valentine's Day weekend, because you've set my weekend on fire, you know. And now that my wife came down to Florida, she'll be on fire too. But you know, Dan has mentioned this in the past, and that is in the world of device reps. It can be a lonely world. It's, you know, you're competing with everybody. You're on your own a lot, and that becomes your standards. You just fall into it like the frog in the cool water that just warms over time. And at a certain point, you don't even know what you're doing to yourself in terms of the life of fulfillment and enrichment you could have versus this competitive. And I'm not against competition at all, but I'm just saying that I just feel like in this group and what you guys exude as a team under Stephen is truly what most everybody really wants in their life, but most are just blinded to it.
Now, what's interesting about the competitiveness in med device, and, you know, I'll share this with you guys, is that over the last 5 to 8 years, I would say, every single med device company has gone on a former athlete hiring bonanza. They are only hiring former college or pro athletes because they think that competitiveness is going to translate, you know, and it doesn't always. You know, competitiveness on the field doesn't always translate to competitiveness in business. And, you know, I kind of laugh at it every time I come across a former NFL football player who gets into the med device business after being an NFL player for 5 or 8 years. And, you know, it very few times have I seen that translate, but these med device companies, for whatever reason, think that that's the way to the future, the way to make sales, which can be difficult, easier, you know, by putting these highly competitive athletic folks into med device sales.
That's
Dan,
that's kind of
I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say that's kind of analogous to hiring the most successful entirely allopathic doctor to lead your group on nutrition. You know, it's going to take that doctor a long time to learn a new trade, you know?
Right.
But I want to add something too, that it's the type of competition as well. I'll use Manzi Shaw as an example. She's not on my team, but I'm not I'm really, my hat is off to her for what she did at the last meeting in Boca. Brought 16 people there. That's fantastic. A little envious, but I'm not in competition against her. I'm in competition with her. There's a big difference. If she needs help, I'm going to help her. And I know that she would bend over backwards to help me with my business too, even though neither one of us benefits from the other line. But our competition is in this business is with ourselves, right? We all start in this business equal. Doesn't matter, male, female, black, white, doesn't matter. We all start the same. And it's what you make of your business. And for me, my ego is in how well my team does. And I think that's the big difference between what I've learned about medical device sales and what we do.
Yeah,
I think one other thing is that the competition which we have, in a sense, yes, it's a friendly competition, but none of us loses and we all gain by helping each other. Yes, we're in competition, but there is such a huge, vast array of opportunity out there that this is not a zero-sum game. We can all add to each other and add to the whole by helping each other. That is not the case in corporate America at all. Now, I'm going to make one final comment here. Jim, you wanted all of this tied back to Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And my thinking is this. There isn't one of us on this call, with the possible exception of me, because my wife made me do it, but there is not one of us on this call that is here involuntarily. We are all here because this is the work we chose. And one of my favorite authors who wrote an extraordinary, actually a couple of extraordinary books, but one in particular called The Prophet, is Khalil Gibran.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the quotes that I love from his work is your love made visible. So what we do here is we're making our love work is your love made visible. And we are all here working this because we want to do it, because we love it, because it's our passion.
Excellent, Martin. That was great. It really was.
Yeah, see, that's what we're talking about. Teamwork right there. Jim needed somehow to tie this thing together, and Martin put it together.
And motivated by you two.
Just as a sort of another thought here is, when you're talking about the athletes, competitive, far better is to have veterans who are disciplined, because the soldiers are told what to do for years and they're disciplined. And discipline is one of those traits that many of us, me for one, need most. Somebody sent me a text the other day saying, if I had one breakthrough, if I could think of one breakthrough that I wanted, what would it be? And I thought about it and I thought, discipline. And I asked my wife, I said, babe, what would be asked the same question. And she thought for a while and she said, discipline. So, discipline is something that really can make and does make a huge difference if we couple it to a progressive mindset. If we progress that to growth mindset, discipline with growth mindset is the formula, in my opinion, Humble, to success.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that. And, you know, one of the things that I like that Martin said was, you know, in med device sales, you know, the last institution that I worked at, there were 14 orthopedic surgeons and there were about 25 orthopedic medical device reps. So that's where it becomes very, very competitive when supply or demand outranks supply, right? And or the other way around. But with this, we have so many different physicians that we can call on. We're not just calling on one specific specialty. And so we can help each other and not have to be competitive for the same physicians or the same customers or the same partners. And that's what's exciting about this for me.
I agree with you. I agree, totally agree. All right, well, thank you. Anybody else got anything to add? Everything's quiet on the north, south, east, and western front, Dan, so I think we can.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day,
By the
everybody.
way, a little thing, and I've been telling all the men,